Welcome to another explainer by Forge College. If you were hanging out with us for the last lesson, Designing Advanced ERC 721 Architecture, you know we just built an absolute powerhouse of a smart contract. You optimized those interactions, you completely locked down the on-chain logic, and honestly, you are ready for the market. But here's the hard truth. That beautiful, mathematically pure blockchain code? It's literally useless if your Web2 backend fumbles the handoff and drops the user's transaction into the void before it ever even reaches the chain. So today, as part of our Web2 Solana integration foundations, we're shifting our focus back to traditional Web2 architecture to make absolutely sure your hybrid apps are bulletproof.
To get us there, we've broken this down into 6 quick sections for today's blueprint. 1. Welcome to the post office. 2. Anatomy of a request. 3. Background broadcasts and tracking. 4. Stateless versus stateful services. 5. Scaling your architecture. And finally, 6. Preparing for Solana integration. All right, let's dive right in.
Section 1. Welcome to the post office, a mental model. Before we get completely lost in the weeds of API gateways and persistent databases, let's ground these abstract concepts in something we all inherently understand. Think of a slightly bureaucratic but highly necessary postal system. In this client-server model, you, the client, are the sender. When you compose a transaction on a dApp, it's like you're dropping a securely sealed package at the server's mailroom. The server takes that package, inspects it to verify your identity, and then routes it through various external databases and middleware APIs, basically our sorting centers, before it reaches its ultimate destination on the blockchain. Now, anyone who has ever shipped something valuable knows that terrible anxiety of not having a tracking number. Well, observability in your system is exactly that tracking number. If your server's mailroom loses a package because an RPC node goes down or a database times out, and you didn't give your client a way to track that request, your user gets absolutely nothing. They're just staring at a frozen loading spinner, and you have a total debugging nightmare on your hands. We definitely want to avoid that. Moving to Section 2, Anatomy of a Request, Tracing the Flow. To avoid losing those precious packages, we need to trace a single request through 4 specific steps of a solid hybrid app architecture. Step 1 happens entirely on the user's device: client action and local validation. The client double-checks the envelope, making sure all the inputs are valid before sending it off. Never assume your server is going to catch every data problem. Step 2 is the API gateway. Think of this as the strict security guard at the mailroom door. It terminates the connection, checks your auth token, and enforces rate limits. Step 3 is the request handler, which actually executes the business logic of your app. And finally, Step 4, persistence and idempotency, where a durable record of that request is logged into a database. Now, I really want to focus on that 4th step because it introduces the impotency key. Listen, this is arguably the single most important concept for a Web3 developer building in Web2. An impotency key is just a unique identifier attached to your database record. Why is it so vital? Because networks fail all the time. If a client doesn't get a quick response, they're going to hit retry. Without an impotency key, your nervous, highly caffeinated server might process that exact same transaction twice. And in the blockchain world, a duplicate action isn't just an annoying glitch, it is a catastrophic double spend. This key guarantees that no matter how many times the client screams, "Do this," the server only executes it exactly once. Section 3, Background Broadcasts and Tracking, Delivering the Mail. Okay, so our package is securely logged in the mailroom, and we've got our idempotency key to prevent duplicates. Now we actually have to get this package out the door, onto the blockchain, and keep the user in the loop. Step 5 is the background broadcast. Instead of making the user wait around, a separate background worker picks up the persisted task and fires it off to the external RPC nodes in literally milliseconds. Step 6 takes a bit longer, usually seconds, sometimes more. This is on-chain reconciliation, where your system pulls the blockchain to confirm the transaction actually went through and then updates your database. Finally, Step 7 is real-time client notification. Using WebSockets or server-sent events, your system pushes a notification right back to the client's UI, instantly changing that annoying pending spinner to a really satisfying confirmed checkmark. Section 4, Stateless versus Stateful Services, Hiring the Right Workers. To build this robust asynchronous mailroom we've been sketching out, you need to understand the tools you're working with. You essentially have 2 very different types of architectural components to choose from. Stateless services are kind of like gig economy couriers. They hold no durable memory of past tasks. They grab a package, deliver it, and completely forget about it. Because they don't store anything locally, they are incredibly easy to duplicate. Traffic spiking? Just spin up 100 more of them.
Stateful services, on the other hand, are your meticulous record keepers. They retain task data locally, like in-memory queues or databases. They remember everything, which is awesome for complex coordination. But if a stateful server crashes, total chaos. You have to carefully manage failovers and data replication to ensure absolutely nothing gets lost.
And that perfectly sets up Section 5, scaling your architecture, expanding the post office. How you arrange these stateless careers and stateful record keepers depends entirely on how much traffic your hybrid app expects to handle. If you're just building a prototype, a single server is totally fine. Everything lives in one box, scaling complexity is basically zero, but it's super fragile. The most common Web2 pattern is the load balance tier. You put stateless APIs in the front and a centralized stateful database in the back. As your traffic gets unpredictable, you'll probably move to auto-scaling groups with managed cloud services. And for the ultimate, heavy-duty hybrid apps, like processing thousands of complex blockchain broadcasts, you evolve to event-driven microservices, communicating via highly durable message queues. The operational complexity is high, sure, but the resilience is totally unmatched. Of course, as you scale up, you're going to face inevitable trade-offs. It's a balancing act. You're constantly weighing latency against cost. Sure, you can make it blazing fast, but it's going to burn through your AWS credits. You weigh operational complexity against developer velocity. Fancy event-driven queues are amazing, but they take a lot longer to build. And crucially for Web3, consistency versus availability. When you're designing your system, always prioritize durable persistence and consistency when you're interacting with external blockchain state. You never want your Web2 database telling a user they own an NFT when the blockchain clearly says they don't. Which brings us to our final section, Section 6, Preparing for Solana Integration, the final handoff. Our Web2 mailroom is beautifully organized. Our workers are hired, our scaling is mapped out. Moving forward into Web3 API development, you need to burn this concept into your memory. You can no longer view a transaction as a simple, isolated action. It is a multi-stage process. The capstone transaction flows you've built require these exact Web2 guarantees. You need explicit touchpoints for guaranteed delivery, smart retry logic for when those RPC nodes inevitably stutter, and solid reconciliation to handle variable on-chain confirmation times without breaking a sweat. Your front end should never freeze. Your back end should absorb all of that complexity. Let's do a really quick recap of the core fundamentals we mapped out today. First, clients package the mail. They prepare and present requests. Second, servers act as the mailroom. They validate, persist, and orchestrate. Third, design for strict idempotency to prevent those terrifying double spends. And fourth, separate your short, snappy API requests from your long, risky background tasks, like broadcasting to external nodes. So, I'll leave you with this final question. Is your Web2 mailroom truly ready to connect directly to the Solana blockchain? For our next lesson, I want you to bring your annotated transaction flows. We're going to see exactly where these Web2 responsibilities shift on-chain and how the two worlds actually communicate. Until then, be sure to visit forge.college to dive much deeper into this topic, review today's technical blueprints, and explore our other comprehensive Web3 integration fundamentals. This has been another Explainer by Forge College. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. Keep building, and I will see you in the next one.